Hey, this is Gerd Handel, and welcome to the Inner Light Project. This show is for anyone who's wanting to lead a happier, healthier, and enlightened life. Create more self-love, inject more joy and abundance into their daily life. Join me for inspiring interviews and spiritual topics so you can shine your inner light. Hello and welcome to the Inner Light Project. My name is Gerd Handel and today I have a powerful guest with me who is empowering empaths to shine their inner lights. This person is just a powerful soul. I see her as a soul sister and there is so much knowledge and wisdom this person has. She's just amazing at understanding empaths and really trusting the wisdom from within. Ashley DuFresne is a master channel and energy alchemist who is aligning people with their authentic self and soul mission. She's a fellow empath and believes that through confidence, personal power and self-value, we can thrive in the world. Hi Ashley, I'm so grateful to have you on the show again.
Hi, I'm so happy to be back for another great conversation.
Oh, bless you. I just really loved that conversation last time. And I know after we spoke after the show, we were like, there is so much more we can share.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, isn't it, with empaths? Like when we meet a fellow empath, it's like, oh my God, you went through that. Oh my God. And, you know, it's just there's so much wisdom that just I feel like needs to be shared even more. So that's why I thought let's do part 2.
Yeah. I agree. And it really I feel like, even though we both experienced it and, whoever's listening probably experiences similar things, but hearing somebody else talk about it, there's this feeling of oh, wait, this is normal, or that camaraderie, or oh, I'm safe to have experienced this. And I can let go of the judgment behind that and actually lean into this part.
Yeah. And it's with everyone listening, hearing our story, it kind of confirms oh, I'm not going mad. Oh, it's not just me that hears the voices.
Yes, exactly. You are not going crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know last time we spoke about how you became an empowered empath and you spoke about your journey. I'd love to share more about how you started listening to your inner voice.
Yes, the story is not a simple one. I am stubborn. Stubborn with my logical mind, and I just did not want to give in to this thing that was not logical and hard to articulate. So yeah, that was a battle. It was a battle to really trust what was going on, and I fought it up until I should say every time I fought it, my guides threw something else at me that was just a little more extreme and a little bit more hard to explain. And so it got to a breaking point. And they're like, oh, well, that you can create an excuse or a reasoning for that to happen. How about this one? How about we totally mess with your reality where you cannot deny it anymore? We'll start moving objects in your house and turning lights on and garbage disposals, and let's just blow this up and throw out any logical reasoning possible that you can come up with. Please stop ignoring the truth of the matter that you are a highly sensitive, intuitive empath.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Not fun.
Yeah. I can relate with you actually, because I remember it's only one thing I remember two things from when I was really young, and then obviously I started to trust later down the line. But there was one I remember sensing danger before it happened. And yeah, but I was must have been 2 or 3 years old. And I just remember briefly, and then this situation happened. Basically, it's not a very nice story. My first ever memory is seeing we were attacked in my parents owned a business. We were attacked in the flat that we were living at the time, and I sensed danger before it happened. But obviously when you're a kid you don't really know what on earth's going on, and I remember that feeling a bit frightened, and then suddenly it all happened so quickly. And then another time I remember saying to my dad, and I think I must have been about 8 or 9 years old, I can't remember exactly. It's around roughly then. I know it was before I was 10. My dad, some of his friends were going out to help with some religious thing, and they invited him to come and join them for a few days. And I remember saying to my dad, he wasn't supposed to go, but he just decided because somebody else like cancelled. And I remember saying as a kid to him, saying, "Don't go." I could sense danger, and he was like, "No, no, no, I'll be fine." I'm like, "No, no, no, don't go, stay, stay." And he was like, "No, no, no, I'm gonna go. It's a good thing. It's a good deed." And then a few days later, they had a car accident, and I didn't see my dad for 6 months because he was in hospital, and my mum and dad didn't want us to see in that state, and he had three metal plates in his arms, and yeah, so like
Oh my
there was
gosh.
pockets of things, and I remember like other things, like I just remember sensing certain things. And one time I think we were watching the news once when I was 6, and I remember sat there going, "I want a better life," and like I heard a voice. It wasn't even me, it was something else. And I was like, huh?
Wow.
Yeah, this
Wow.
this is a thing that people don't understand. Like we have this inner psyche, and I know these were both quite serious, but it just shows like how young age, like we get taught to ignore that voice, so we just think, oh, it's nothing. But really, we see signs. We are seeing those signs from a young age. We just
Hmm.
we allow society to tell us what is right and wrong, really.
Hmm. Hmm. We dismiss them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Those are some really intense, but really
Yeah.
profound experiences with your gifts. Yeah, I'd say what are some of the big ones. It's hard to tell the difference between like what was my like channeling and psychic abilities and what was my empath abilities, because it kind of all, I feel like it all blends together.
Yeah.
But I remember some of the empath things is I remember just like always taking on everyone's emotions so deeply. And I remember thinking like, why do I have to feel like as horrible as they feel, where I'm like crying and feel like I'm like so hopeless when I'm around people who are feeling that way? Like, why do I have to take that on and like hold on to that? And I remember conceptualizing this like a really little kid and being like, this is like crazy. Like, do people, as everyone feel this way? Like, how do people turn this
Oh.
off?
Wow. Yeah, that just shows, right? Like you've already been questioning from a young age. Like, is this right? Is this wrong? But again,
Hmm.
did you ever like speak to somebody about it, or did you kind of like myself just keep it all in?
I would try to talk to my mom about it, but when you're not raised by parents who are empaths or even know what, more so don't know what being an empath means, it
Yeah.
often just gets overlooked or like dismissed, and it teaches us to dismiss our experiences, our feelings, our beliefs, ourself, and that's I think the root of why empaths become disempowered is because, well, it's one of the three reasons. One, that's what I call like the empath trauma of just whatever the extreme is of gaslighting or dismissal,
Yeah.
but basically teaching them that they can't trust, they can't stay connected because it's uncomfortable, and what they know isn't right, and so they don't know. So it creates a conditioning
Mm,
around I can't trust, I can't connect, I don't know. And so you'll hear those three stories with empaths a lot in their life and how they exist because they're trained and taught, or through like negative, or I should say uncomfortable experiences as a child that kind of condition that pendulum swing in the other direction.
yeah. I feel like for me, it started when I went to school. Like I stopped listening to my voice, and it was like the teacher's right, you're wrong, mum and dad
Hmm.
right, you're wrong. So if I hurt myself, oh no, no, it's nothing. But really, it would be a big thing. But oh no, 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 it's nothing. And so
Yeah.
that became part of my, oh, it's nothing. Like my stuff isn't important. Oh, maybe it's all in my head. I remember that from a young age, just thinking it's all my fault. God,
Yeah.
right? Like that's how we feel, right? I don't know about for you, but for me, I always felt like I was the problem. I was the one with the issues, when really it was I was absorbing everybody else's stuff and
Yes.
wasn't being able to hear my own voice.
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's just like a magnitude of layers on that of like, all right, one, you're being conditioned not to trust your experience. Two, you're feeling things that are not yours, so you don't know how to process it or transmute it. Three, you try to talk about it with anyone and no one's going to understand it, get it, see the logic behind it because once again, it's not yours. And it's just like it creates a cycle of, yeah, wow, like now you nailed it. That's it.
It's like I don't know with you, but with me, like when I was in relationships where I was cheated on, like I knew when they had cheated, but I chose to ignore my intuition and I just carried on until like it just broke apart. And then the truth would come out and I'd be like, why didn't I listen to that voice? What's wrong with me?
Yeah, a similar experience. I feel like because, being highly sensitive, you're more likely to be highly anxious from all the energy you're experiencing. So I had a really difficult time differentiating the difference between paranoia and
Mm,
intuition.
mm,
And so I would have experiences like that, and I'm like, I would fixate. I would fixate and like dwell and, be told I was wrong and then later, discover that I'm right. But like it kind of reinforced that like the paranoia, but also, you know what I mean? Like it
yeah.
just kind of blurred the lines, I should say, between the paranoia and the intuition.
Whew, wow.
Hmm.
I know, like with me, like oh, it was when I had like my awakening. That's when my inner voice started, and I think we briefly kind of talked about it last time, but like it was when I was sat in the hospital, waiting for my cancer test results, and I remember thinking, like, feeling sorry for myself, like, why is this happening to me? Why do I deserve this? What have I done? And I heard the voice, you created all this, and I remember looking around, like the waiting room, like,
Oh,
who said that? And I'm
oh
like,
my gosh.
and I'm thinking, am I going nutty? And, and then I go and get my results, and obviously they misdiagnosed me. And then I run out of the hospital crying because it was like a massive, like, emotional release. And then I heard it's time to heal. And again, I looked around outside. I'm like, who is this person? Where is this coming from? Like, am I losing the plot? Do I need to see the doctor? But I went home and I started writing my story. That's how I saw my patterns, and my journey kind of led that way. But that was the awakening of my inner voice. But it took obviously a few more years to really strengthen it. But yeah, what was your like awakening moment where you heard your inner voice?
I had a few of them and ignored them.
Mm.
And I think I told the story last time of the time that I really woke up when I survived that,
Ooh.
survived that attempt to end my life. And that was my wake up moment of like, oh wow, like I guess I can't bail on this life. There's something for me to do here.
Yeah.
I think, it was really just that whole time. I think it was beyond just that moment because there was so much going on with my gifts. Like they were unmanaged and they were becoming so extreme that I had to self-medicate and,
Mhm.
like with drugs and alcohol, whatever I could to just like try to like tone down the voices and tone
Yeah.
down the sensitivities and the experience. And it got to the point where I just was numb. I feel like I really disassociated from my body, from my experience. And I'm like, there's something, it's like I was able to disconnect enough where I felt like I was finally able to be open to my guides and like
Mhm.
hear that, like I feel like I really had to hit rock bottom, and like dwell in it and like keep hitting it before I was like, okay, maybe I am worthy of something more. Maybe there is something more. Maybe these things that I'm hearing are true, and like maybe I
Mm.
should just take the leap.
Ah, wow. Yeah, I relate with you on that. It's almost like if you don't listen to the small signs, then you're going to get a bigger sign.
Yes,
It's like, hello,
exactly.
are you not listening?
Yeah, you're not going to get around this one. We're just going to keep throwing it in your face until you feel it hard enough.
Yeah. And it's so amazing. I don't know if you feel this the same, that when you start hearing the inner voice, you first you're like, oh, this is weird. Then you start testing it out and you like like you're paying attention to it. But then you tell others and they're like, oh, there's something wrong with you. Oh, there's something wrong in your head. Oh, maybe you need to go see the doctor. That's not very good to have those voices inside your head.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that reminds me of like the couple friends that I told. I mean, I I was right there with them. I'm like, I could tell they thought I was going crazy, like that I like was like having um a breakdown, like a mental breakdown, and I was right there with them. I'm like, yeah, logically that totally makes sense, and like I think that too, but for whatever reason, like this experience was real, like this actually happened, and I just remember their faces and like how they would treat me and gently, but like I could tell that they were like, yeah, this stuff is not true, and like she's breaking, like she's done too many drugs or something. Like she needs help. And And I think what really helped was actually leaving that environment
Yeah.
when I moved, when I left. And I think that was like my leap. And I think that I really believe that the guides like orchestrated it divinely for me to meet a community of people who like believed me, understood me, and that allowed me to start believing and understanding myself and open me up to the experiences in a way that was like not judgmental, but self-compassionate and
Mm.
curious and like willing to learn and grow, as opposed to like continuously like feeling like the victim or not believing it, or
Mm.
betraying myself and disempowering myself, and like just going through those loops, like you
Yeah.
feel it, you spiral, you disconnect, you need like 2 whole days to replenish, and then you're at it again. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's more like when we're like the unawakened empath, we're around toxicity anyway, so whatever we think or feel, others will just shut us down instead of
Yeah.
like having that empathy or understanding, or they haven't even done their own inner work, so they're not even going to understand this. They just think this is
True.
normal, right?
So
Oh, this
true.
is
Yeah.
normal, just numb it, have a drink, take some drugs, or take some medication, you'll be fine, you'll be all
Yeah.
right. It's always about numbing the pain, whereas when you awaken as like as we call it, the empowered empath, it's like bing.
Hmm.
And it's like you realize that a lot of the things that you're around, the situations and surroundings and the people that you're around have their own trauma and their own toxicity. And actually you can't grow in that environment because A, you don't know about protecting your energy at that point. B, you don't know about boundaries. And C, you
Yeah.
need to be in a space where it's like you said, compassion, love, understanding, empathy,
Yeah.
people who
Safe.
get you. Yeah, safe. That's right. That's the word, safe. And I felt the same. Like as we spoke last time, like I was drinking alcohol like there was no tomorrow. Like that was my way of numbing the pain. Um, that was just me trying to deal with it instead of facing what I was feeling. And I did that for years. It's been wow. It's nearly 8 years sober. Wow.
Oh, well,
Thank,
congratulations. That's
thank,
really big.
yeah. And it's the best decision I made because with empaths, as you know, like any type of thing that's not natural actually takes us away from our intuition.
Hmm.
It makes us feel like we're not good enough. That's what I feel when I used to drink it. It was like I wasn't worthy of loving myself. So this was something in the middle to make
Hmm.
me feel something, but not. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. It opens your energy up more. It's, being highly sensitive too, being like everything is felt more. Like that doesn't matter if it's just, one drink, half a drink, doesn't matter if it's like half a dose of whatever, like you're gonna feel it so much more,
Yeah.
that like it's hard to really manage, and like there's this, it's hard to moderate when you're so sensitive, because
Mm,
you're already, any little bit's already a lot.
yeah. And I was gonna say, like, even like, so we get once we like be surrounded by these people that who understand us and get us, even that journey, we're still trying to hear our voice, but then obviously we have the inner work and there's like stuff that we need to clear. And then when we start hearing the voice, it can be quite freaky. I don't know if it was for you, but it was for me. I
Oh yeah.
I heard my grandma's voice and I was like, what? Hello? Is it me?
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I speak to my ancestors now, so it's like normal now, and like it's my way of channeling and talking to them. But before if I tried to explain that to somebody, phew,
Oh yeah, yeah, totally right. That was a boundary that I put up pretty fast, because the hearing really freaked me out and would totally trigger me and spiral me into like disconnect and like paranoia freak out, right? So that was one of the boundaries I put up really quick with channeling, was I don't want to actually hear your voice, I don't want to actually see you because that freaks me out, but these are the ways that you can communicate with me that make me, that like, or feel safe for me, and I feel like I'm able to stay in my power and communicate. Because hearing a voice, that's freaky, like it would totally freak me out, and I felt that feeling of like lack of control or lack of like safety. And I don't, maybe it's not your experience because that's how you channel, and that's how you feel safe channeling. But for me, it was like that was too much for me. That I had to put up really strong boundaries of like, okay, I'll communicate, but like only in these ways.
because like I get what you mean, because it was freaky for me in the beginning. I was like, what the hell is wrong with me? Like, do I need to take medication? I honestly felt like that. I think it's we already don't feel safe as it is, and then now we're hearing something else, and it's
Mhm.
like, oh, is this real or is it in my head? Because we've been taken so way like far from the truth that we don't know what is true anymore. So is this real? Is this fake? Am I hearing it? Is
Mhm.
it fabricated? So I understand that totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and everybody's way of receiving is different too, you know,
Mm.
and what they feel safe with. Like that's so cool to hear that that's how you were channeling and you like got you conditioned yourself to feel safe in that and now you use that modality and that way of like that psychic gift to channel and connect with your ancestors. Like that's so powerful. Where like for me it's I
Mhm.
like to do the visual, inside my
Mm.
mind or like the downloaded knowing or like the body sensation, like those feel safe to me. And so those are the ways that I've allowed myself to develop. And those are the psychic senses that I use to connect with, my guides and my clients' guides.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I thank you for sharing that because it's so true. Everybody has a different way of connecting with their guides, whether that's your ancestors or it's angels or whatever works for you. That's your gift. And again, like there is no wrong or right way about this.
Hmm.
It's about trusting what you were given in this world to have and to guide you with.
Yeah, yeah, and allowing yourself. So something that I work with my clients that like I hear a lot is like they think that if they put up boundaries, then they're like cutting off their channeling ability or their like ability to like communicate with their guides or their ancestor or who they're communicating with, and I think that that's a wound of an empath because we're taught like boundaries aren't nice and we need to be
Yeah.
nice and like like this quote unquote nice not kind of thing, and it like kind of spills in these different areas of our life, including with the energy world and the spirit world, and that's not, as an empath, like it's essential, it's imperative that we have the boundaries, that we put those up, that we honor them, we honor our energy first, so that when we do open up, we're doing it in a way that honors our energy, that doesn't deplete it, that we're channeling in and calling in only the highest, and that it's on our terms, so it isn't disempowering us.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's so true. Wow. Wow. Yeah. So like when you started to hear the voices and like you put the boundaries, how did you then were able to just trust in it more?
I actually think by setting the boundaries and then being honored, I was started to actually feel safer because I was
Mm.
like, okay, cool, like I can set this, and if I believe this boundary, that is energy and that's actually happening. Like I was able to kind of like without really knowing, because I didn't really know anyone or like do any research or read any books, like I didn't know that this existed.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like kind of all trial and error that when I put the boundaries up, and then when I was like still scared of them and didn't believe in them, I saw that it would happen anyways. And then when I would really hold that boundary and like kind of get mad about it, like, no, these are my boundaries, and like held my ground, I felt more confident in that. And that became the energy that was being put off of like, this is the truth. This boundary is here. And they were honored. And so it was
Yeah.
kind of this like test, like the more that I really trusted and was confident in what I was saying and the boundaries I was setting, that's when they would be honored. And that's kind of how I started figuring out energy. I was like, oh, it's not actually what you say or what you think, it's really the energy behind it. And
Mm.
so that helped me kind of create and start trusting those boundaries, which then allowed me to feel safe and confident and trusting the channelings, the experiences that I was having, um, the sensitivities, the premonitions. I was able to trust them a lot more and feel safer with them because I started calling my power back with it. Like,
Wow.
really calling it in and like using it on demand instead of it happening to me.
Yeah. I get you. Yeah, wow. For me, it was a bit different. It was like in the sense I was hearing these things. I was like, "Am I going mad? What's wrong with me?" I'd share it. People would be like, "Something's wrong with you," and then I started changing my circle, then like going to more like spiritual events, still trying to figure it out, and then noticing things when they happened when I'd hear stuff, and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, this is my inner voice. I need to trust it," and then like kind of like yourself test trialed it. And then when I was around people who understood it, then people started, because what happened was one of my friends at the time, I heard her grandfather's voice and it freaked me out. And I said, I don't know why. but I need it. And I called her up and she was at work at the time. And I was like, I've got a message for you and I don't know if this is real, like if it's in my head. But your grandfather said this to me. And she goes, that's so weird because it's actually his birthday today. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
this is real. Like,
Yeah, so it strengthened your confidence in it.
yeah. But then the flip side was that then everybody started to ask me loads of questions and it was like, it doesn't work like that, people. Like it happens when it's supposed to be. So then I had to slowly put boundaries with certain people for them to understand that I can't constantly keep channeling this, because even I didn't know how I was channeling it. It was just coming through me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I started to learn about boundaries and like, saying no to things and really just like knowing when and when not to say things. But it just kept getting stronger and stronger. And it got actually more stronger when I had my kidney operation, when I woke up. And funny enough, this is why we are called the Inner Light Project, because we all have a light within. I heard that. That was the first thing I heard from my grandma. I was like,
Wow.
whoa. I was like, okay. And at the time the podcast was called Get Inspired with Girls. I was like, nope, it's the Inner Light.
Wow, that's
So yeah,
amazing.
and it just got stronger and stronger. And then like unfortunately my uncle passed away and I heard my granddad's voice, and like I'd never met him. He passed away, my mum was really young, and he told me, and then I had to ask somebody, is this true? And they verified, and I was like, whoa. So that's like how I started to then slowly trust it. And I now, whenever I need to talk to them, I talk to them, and it's a friendly way. So it's like kind of like yourself. I have my boundaries and protection, and like when I want to hear it, I'll ask. When I don't, I'm like, no, thank you. It depends where I am.
Yeah, oh, interesting. That reminds me of like, yeah, I didn't know how to do it on command. It was just random for a while, probably for the first 5 years of like developing my channel. It was only when like it happened to me, not when it was on my command. And it was actually a mentor of mine. I was actually personally training him at the time.
Oh wow.
He challenged me. I know, like how the universe works, right?
Amazing.
I know, it's so crazy, like somewhere random in Michigan. And he, I was explaining my stuff. He's like, "Oh, you're a channel," and I didn't really know what that meant. I was just doing this work on this, like this is what I did for energy healing, and like what came up when I was in the session with them. And he was like, "Oh, why don't you try to call someone in individually, like call in?" And I'm like, "Oh, it doesn't work that way." And he's like, "Well, just try it." And I tried it and I was like, oh my God, I actually have that power.
Yeah.
So crazy to like see the evolution of that, of like, oh wow, like to learn it before understanding like what it's called. I was like, oh, I'm a medium and I like read energy and like,
Yeah.
talk to people's ancestors and this kind of stuff. But like really understanding what a channel is, and then like kind of becoming even more empowered of it in it, and beginning to learn like, oh, it isn't just on their terms. Like you get to choose
Mm.
who and what and when and where and like
Yeah.
how.
And it gets lighter because you're aware, and like you said, you take the power.
Yeah.
Like it's on your terms. It becomes easier. So like with my clients now, when we're in the space and I'm holding the space for healing, I will call in one of their ancestors. It's usually one of the female ancestors, and that person will come through and they feel them. Whereas before that wouldn't happen. It would be very like heavy, and and then I can ask them like, thank you, and then like they can now leave. It's so much more easier to deal with. Whereas before, phew, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. In the sense like with my own stuff, like I didn't understand it. I was like, what is, I'd sit there for hours like, is this all made up? Or like I'd hear somebody else's like grandma or something and I'd be like, what is going on here? Like,
Oh my gosh, right? Oh, it can be, it's so funny because looking back on it, like now
yeah.
being comfortable and safe, it's like, oh wow, that's so magic. But like actually going back into that time, it was like, this isn't magic. This is scary.
Yeah. And I think that's what it is, right? Because we've had so many years, like we were saying, like of not being able to trust ourselves. So even when the magic comes through at that point, we don't even know how to trust even the magic.
Because it doesn't feel safe, and because we're taught that it's not safe, and it's, yeah, and in my background, I think we talked about this too. I was raised Catholic, and so it
Mm.
was like anything that was supernatural at all, I was told it was black magic, and I was shamed for it, and like was told to not like do it and tap into it. So like on top of already feeling like no one really understands it, I was also told that like that's demonic and like black magic, and that like I'm bad for
Mm.
being sensitive, basically. Like they wouldn't say it directly, but basically saying like, oh, your gifts are actually demonic and like it's
Phew.
against our religion.
Oh God.
I know.
It's almost like, when you have the intuition like moment with somebody who doesn't get it and they call you a witch and you're like, am I really a witch? Or is it just that I'm tapping into my own inner power?
Right, right. Oh, I know. Yeah, that definitely created a lot of, I think, really essential questioning that needed to happen.
Yeah.
Discernment, I should say, for me.
Well, I think all of us who've ever grown up in religion, it's like we are spoon fed how we need to act or behave in life. But I really don't think religion is like that. I think it's a way of life, but it doesn't shun other people for their own beliefs. It
Right.
accepts them for who they are and their own beliefs. Whether they follow that is a different story.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's difference of, like the openness that like spirituality can have versus the like closed off, very like certain way of being structure that that religion can be.
Yeah, but that's a man-made thing. I'm definitely feel like religion is love. It's just certain people misconstruing things.
Yeah, right. The intention's there, it
Yeah,
just then over time evolves to being more and not all entirely, I don't even want to put that label on it, but
yeah,
it has definitely over time a lot of them have been created to be more of like more restrictive than the expansiveness that they intended to be.
absolutely. I want to talk to you about like confidence with empaths because like I don't know with yourself, but for me growing up, my confidence was just like up, down, up, down, up,
Mhm.
down, because I wasn't being able to trust my intuition. So my confidence would go down when somebody would say, no, no, that's wrong, or would like shun
Right.
me.
Yeah, gaslighted. Yeah, yeah. No, I that's a huge one for empaths. Like the confidence and the certainty and the trust in yourself, like that is deep rooted, so deep rooted. And I feel like it even goes beyond like your lifetime. It's just like
Mm.
every empath, like we're all connected. Like you're just like holding the collective empaths wins here too. I honestly, this is something that I am still witnessing myself peel back layers. Like I
Yeah.
didn't claim myself as a leader. Like, legitimately, I've been a leader for many, many years, and I didn't claim myself as a leader until
Yeah.
like a year and a half or 2 years ago. Like,
What?
that's crazy. I know. And
Yeah.
I feel like every other month I'm noticing another layer peel back and I'm becoming more confident. And I share this to show like this is an ever going journey. You're not just
Mm.
like confident or not confident. It's something that especially as empaths, like you're just gonna have to continue to peel layers back and step into it and continue to lean into that confidence because even me, like I've been working on this for a very long time. This is the work that I do with other people. I'm still noticing it, and I found ways that work for me. Like when I am in the energy of this is actually so powerful. I think that everyone needs to hear this. Some
Whew.
ways that I like has helped me with gaining more confidence is I understand the systems that work for me. So I will hire a coach or I'll like be in a container that expands me
Mm.
and it kind of tests my views on myself, or tests like my ego's like beliefs of what's possible. And that way it kind of like cracks that illusion and opens the vision and also my energy to what's possible and like what's next or what my next level might look like. And I think this is so important for empaths because we do, even if we have our boundaries up and we master our energy, we're still so sensitive to what's around us and
Yeah.
things still filter in. So the power of proximity is so freaking powerful that we really do want to surround ourselves with not just people that get us and believe in us, that see our light and that make us feel good and expansive, but also surround ourselves with people that are gonna pull us towards
Mm.
the direction we want to grow.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like a lot of people like I don't think realize is that even we as leaders, we are still working on ourselves. We're
Oh yeah.
still growing and evolving so then we can help more and more people. But
Hmm.
it does take a village.
Absolutely.
It's not done by ourselves. Like, that's the reason why a lot of us stay stuck as empaths because we're just like, oh, we know we'll figure it out. But really,
Yeah.
it's so much harder. And we both have done, and I remember our last conversation, we both did the work separately. We didn't take the help in the beginning because we didn't know who to ask, right? And
Yes,
then,
exactly.
that bit's the hard process as it is.
Like, well, that's a really big part is empaths feel really safe and comfortable giving, but they don't feel safe and comfortable receiving. And
Mm,
that includes receiving help, investing in themselves, receiving coaching, receiving anything. Like, it's really uncomfortable. And that's a paradigm that like is essential, that is broken first and foremost, because if we can't receive, we really can't give to our soul's potential in a way that is soul nourishing instead of draining.
Mm.
It's important that we allow ourselves to receive so that we're able to give from a full cup always.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's because when we don't listen to our intuition, then that's where the lack of confidence comes in, and that's where everything else like comes in as well, right?
Hmm.
But when we expand our inner voice, the confidence comes through, the intuition comes through, then we're able to ask for help. But again, it's in the beginning, it's like, oh, I don't really want to, what's the word?
Burden them.
Yeah, that's it, right? Like, oh, I don't want to like overstep your toes or anything. And like, can I ask you a question? But it's almost like being a child. Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
upset you.
Right, right. It's
Yeah.
again like honoring everyone else's energy before like, like your own. And it's good to honor people's energy, but it's like to a fault where it's like you're not honoring your energy at all. Like people really do enjoy what I remind myself of and tell my clients is like, how much you love to help someone? Like, don't you just like feel so lit up when you help someone? When
Mm.
you don't ask for help, you're robbing that person of that opportunity to feel good and
Oh,
helpful and to
oh,
build that connection.
ouch.
Hmm.
That is so true. Yeah, you're robbing them of sharing your gifts with them. Like, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's
Yes,
so
I
true.
know. And we all want to serve. Like, I really do believe that, like, honestly, 99% of people really want to be helpful and, like, be of service and, like, and have that genuine connection. And when we just do everything ourselves and, like, don't want to burden people and, like, kind of stay in our own world, we're of course, like, not giving them that opportunity to really show up and, like, lead and share their gifts, but we're also just, like, continuously reinforcing this old structure living that will keep us from really expanding and growing into the desire that purpose that we want to step into. We have to step out of our comfort zone. We have to take that leap of faith. We have to expose ourselves to something that's like edgy, that's like where we
Yeah.
want to go, that's uncomfortable, so we can break that illusion and break those habits around like the comfort zone and let ourselves really lean into and access this full soul potential of living out our purpose.
Mm. It's almost like giving yourself permission to shine your inner light. It's giving yourself permission to say
Yes.
yes to your life, giving
It's
yourself
that's it.
permission to trust the process, right?
That is 100% it. You said it perfectly. Yes.
Yeah, that just took me back actually when you were saying that. I was like, oh my God, I remember like when I was like so scared to do my blog, so scared to share that I was a coach, so scared I was to share that I was a leader. It's like, oh, but I
Right.
don't want to offend anybody. Or maybe I should put this quote up, maybe I shouldn't.
Right, like who am I to do this or say that, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Now it's like, nope. The reason I do it is to help others. So that's the most important thing. And I know it's going to help. It helped me. It's going to help somebody else. So that's why I share it.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. Truly of service and aligned service provider.
Yeah, because like we know what it's like as an empath to go through the emotions alone. Like I just want others to know that they have support, that they can get through it. They just need to know the tools and understand their energy. And it's not always about how we think it needs to be done. It's helping them to understand their own energy so they can then be able
Yes.
to hold the boundaries and understand how their energy system works. It's not about follow this plan and that's it. It's like,
Yeah.
no, enhance your intuition, trust yourself, love yourself, start to understand who you are. I think that's what is key.
That is it. Exactly, exactly, exactly. It's really giving the tools to provide them the opportunity to take back their power and feel more confident and aligned and feel at home in their body and in their
Mm,
energy.
yeah. I want to talk to you about I just think it's really important to share the difference between empathy and an empath. Mm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the way I've channeled it in is there's a spectrum. So the way I see it is the way that it was channeled in was humans are on this big spectrum here, and empathy is on the spectrum. It's the empathy spectrum. And in one side of it, the very far side of it is a highly sensitive empath, and the other far end of it is a sociopath.
they do not have the ability to have empathy. So they don't have mirror neurons, so they're not going to understand somebody else's experience. So that's like 100% full-blown sociopath, because you can have sociopathic tendencies but still be empathetic and not be like 100%. So I'd say that's where empathy actually starts, is like 1 degree off of that line. And then as you move towards the center, empathy grows and grows and grows up into that middle point, which is where an average human lies, an average human amount of empathy that we have. So everybody, not everybody, but majority of people have empathy. Yeah. Different than being an empath. So if you continue moving down that line, down that spectrum of empathy, you move towards being an empath. And empathy begins to grow, but it starts to also kind of translate beyond emotions, but into energy, into experience. And so the further and further you move down that line, you hit being an empath, where they might not be highly sensitive, but they might be empathetic, where they like a lot of empathy, they feel things, they take things on. Continue down that spectrum, you're going to have a highly sensitive empath who is, highly sensitive to light, sound, experience, everything. Yeah. And then further down that, you'll find the highly sensitive, intuitive, spiritually gifted empath who they're highly sensitive, they're spiritually sensitive, they're highly empathetic, all of the things like on the farthest end of that spectrum.
Wow. Yeah. I totally relate with what you're saying. Yeah. It's like you don't even know boundaries when you're an empath. Like you care, but you care so much to the point it actually damages you, but you don't realize that other people have boundaries and they will put theirs in place. Whereas with us, it's like we didn't grow up learning about boundaries. We didn't understand how our boundaries were. It was more other people's boundaries.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I call it the amoebic auric field of an empath. Like we're just like born without that boundary, where we're like an amoeba. We just absorb everything around us without even realizing. And so we put the boundaries up and create that outer shell around our auric field. That's just a natural part of being an empath, is that absorption of what's around us.
Absolutely. Gosh, wow. Time went so fast. I just want to say thank you again, Ashley, for being on the show. And I know it was quite intense today, but I feel like it was so needed to share, just like how when you trust your intuition and you trust your inner voice as an empath, life just becomes abundant and it's not as hard anymore, and it's free, and it's just so easy to just be able to just trust yourself more than ever.
Oh, really, like life becomes so magical and special, and you begin to really see that being an empath is a gift. It's a privilege. It's just like really incredible extra little superpower that you get as a human.
Yeah. Thank you so much again. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This is such a pleasure, as always, to speak with you.
Bless you. Thank you, Ashley, for just being yourself and just sharing your truth with us all, because I think you're not alone. There are so many empaths like yourself who are not sure what's going on with them, but really it's a realization to come back home to yourself and trust the wisdom from within and trust that you know yourself better than anybody else. Unfortunately, that's the end of the show. Before I leave, I want to leave you with this quote. No, I'm not insulted at all when people call me sensitive. Feeling things deeply is my superpower. I'm an empathetic badass. That's a quote by sweetpantsandcoffee.com. For more information about the show or how to trust your inner light, visit my new coaching program at gerdshundel.com. And remember, stay happy, stay healthy, stay lit.